Hello and welcome to this week's Chant Talk. This Sunday is the Sunday of Pentecost, which falls 50 days after Pascha. After his resurrection, Jesus told his disciples not to leave Jerusalem, but to wait for the coming of the Holy Spirit. When this happened, they would receive power to be his witnesses throughout the world. On the day of Pentecost, the disciples were together, and the Holy Spirit came like a rushing wind. They spoke among crowds of people who were from many different places, and each person heard the message in his or her own language. We celebrate this day not just because of what happened then, but also because the Holy Spirit has been given to us as well, and we are all called to be witnesses of Christ. I want to share with you a couple of hymns that are chanted on the Sunday of Pentecost during liturgy. The first one is the Apollytikion. Remember, that's kind of like a theme song. You'll hear it sung at least 3 times during the liturgy, and even more if you attend Matins. As you listen, think about how many of these disciples were fishermen. They were not educated men or even leaders in their time before Christ came. Yet God used them in a very mighty way. Here's the Apollytikion of Pentecost. Blessed are you, O Christ our God. You made the fishermen all wise by sending down upon them the Holy Spirit. And through them you drew the world into your net. O lover of mankind, glory to you. The Kontakion of Pentecost is another hymn you'll hear this Sunday, shortly after the little entrance. A little explanation could be helpful for this one. It starts, when the Most High God came down and confused the tongues. Now wait, what? At Pentecost, we're remembering an event where people heard about Christ in their own languages, even though the disciples didn't know all those languages. So what is this hymn talking about? Well, it's referring to the Tower of Babel, an event in the book of Genesis. The people were attempting to build a tower all the way up to heaven, and their goal was to make a name for themselves. God thwarted their plan and their pride by causing them all to suddenly speak different languages, and after that they sped throughout the earth into different nations. What happened at Pentecost was a reversal of God's action at the Tower of Babel. Even though we still have many languages and many nations, the message of Christ is for all of them, and salvation is offered to all people, not just the Jews who had a special status up to that point. So here's the Kontakion of Pentecost. When the Most High God came down and confused the tongues, he divided the nations. When he distributed the tongues of fire, he called all to unity. And with one voice we glorify the All-Holy Spirit. There are many other special hymns for this day of Pentecost, especially during Matins. Listen this Sunday for all the references to the Holy Spirit, a mighty wind, and tongues of fire. See you next week. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments.